Okay, so multiplying fractions. I know that you have talked about fractions a lot, but I just want a little bit of a reminder. Can somebody tell me what a fraction is?
A fraction is when there's a hole and you split it into different parts.
There is a hole, you made a circle, you made a gesture. Is that correct? You made a large gesture, a hole, and then you
Split it into different pieces.
split it into different pieces.
Yeah.
So like that, and like that.
No.
No?
They have to be equal pieces. Well,
Equal pieces, okay. Okay, so you're saying that if I split it like that,
Yeah. Fraction.
pretty much, that's not perfect, but that's what you mean? So
Yeah.
you're saying that this is a half.
Yes. Yes.
How do I write half?
Yeah.
How would I write that? Well, what's the one half, is that correct? So how would I write that on the board?
If you shade one part and then you have one half.
So you're saying if I shade it, that's one half. Now if I was going to write it numerically,
You would put 1, and then you would put a line under that. Yeah. Going horizontally, and then 2 under that.
2 under that.
1 half.
That's one half. Okay, can anybody else name some fractions for me? Just any fraction, it doesn't matter what it is.
6/12.
6/12. Just name a fraction. 1/4. 3/5. Yes, these are all fractions. Perfect. Now, I want to talk about certain terms. Has anybody heard the term numerator?
Yes.
Numerator, yes. Can you tell me, on this number here, which number is the numerator? The top one, which is?
6.
6. So I'm going to draw a triangle around 6 to say that is the numerator. Let's write that on the board. Numerator. And can somebody tell me what a denominator is?
It's the number on the bottom of the fraction.
Number on the bottom of the fraction. So in this number here,
It's
which number is the denominator? I mean, it's the 4. So I'm going to put a square right around there. Does everybody have whiteboards? Do we have whiteboards in this class?
You can use those. Do you see them in the yellow basket?
The yellow basket?
Yeah, those.
Can I have a volunteer pass out some whiteboards?
Oh, there's a job for that.
There's a job for that? Is that a specific person?
There's specific to people.
Oh, okay. Would it be okay if I just use this Ali? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ali? Can I use Ali today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ali. Why don't you pass that out? I do appreciate that there's normally a person. Who is the normal person that does the job? Oh, thank you. And I'm sorry, Isabel? Is that correct? Helena. Sorry, Helena. Excellent. Okay. While Ali is passing around the whiteboards and slapping some students in the face with it, accidentally, to be fair, accidentally. Can somebody tell me what number this is? I mean, sorry, between numerator and denominator.
1/2.
We have right over here. Denominator right there. And this number right here. The numerator right there. Perfect. So, what we're going to do once we get our whiteboards, we're going to give you several fractions. And all I want you to do is put a triangle around the numerator. We have the numerator. You'll remember my name is Mr. M, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, quick. What's my name?
Mr.
Mr. M.
Oh, I thought you meant
Mr. M. Oh, okay. Oh, does anybody remember my whole name?
Mr. Madden.
Wow, Mr. Maggiman. Very good. Okay, so we have the numerator over the denominator. Denominator. Okay. What we're going to do is, once you get your whiteboards, I'm going to give you several numbers, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands this. So we're going to put a triangle around the number that's a numerator. I'm going to put the symbol X there right now. And we're going to put a square around the the denominator, and I'm going to put the symbol Y there right now. Does everybody understand that? X is just a variable, and Y is just a variable. So I'll give you a series of numbers. go ahead, if you already have your whiteboard, your number board, go ahead and write down all those fractions, and I just want you to put a triangle around the numerator and a square around the denominator. And then when you're done, I'd like you to hold your hands up in the air. I want to warm up our brains a little bit with a little bit of mental math. Does anybody know what mental math is?
Yes.
That's somebody who I haven't talked to yet. What's mental math?
Mental math is where you just do math and you do all the numbers inside your head.
Inside your head. So there's no speaking, there's no yelling out answers, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go ahead and take the number 4. Put the number 4 on your head. Okay? Now I want you to multiply that number by 5. Okay? Don't answer it yet. Hold that number in your head. Do you have that number in your head? The answer? Now take that number, divide it by 2. Does everybody have that in your head? Okay. Now, we're still going. We're going to take that number and multiply that number by 1. Okay? Now, divide that number by 10. Okay? Now divide that number by 2 and write that final answer on your whiteboard. Divide that number by 2. I know this might be hard for some people. Don't say anything out loud yet. Let's just write it down. Go ahead and write it down if you know it. If you don't know it, put the very last number before I said divide it by 2. Just write that on your board. I'm going to lift this up for a second. Do I pull this out? How do I do this? Pull it all the way down?
Oh, out a little bit, down, and then it'll raise.
See, I learn something every day too. Okay, so did everybody write something down? Either the final answer or the previous answer. Can you hold it up and your whiteboard's up and face it towards me? Okay. Okay, so here's what we did. I'm going to write what we did on the board. Ms. Jackson, would you mind actually turning on the lights again for a second? I apologize for jumping the gun on that. I forgot about warming up. So we started with 4 times 5. Can you tell me what 4 times 5 is?
20.
20. Who got 20? Do you remember this step? 20. So now we have 20, okay? The next step was 20 divided by 2.
Which was 10.
Let's have hands up.
10.
10, okay? Then we took the number 10 and we multiplied it by 1. Ten times 1 is
10.
10. Okay, so you thought it was 1. Who else thought 10 times 1 is 1? Anybody? Okay. So last night, we had pizza, my friends and I. There was myself, and there was my friend Jackie, and my friend Sabrina, and my friend Robbie. We decided to split a pizza together. So there was 4 of us. I decided to cut it into fourths. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 slices. 4 slices in total. We each had 1 slice. So that means we each had 1/4 of a slice. Now Jackie had said she didn't want that much pizza. She asked me if I could divide her 1/4 slice into 2 parts. She wanted to divide that 1/4 slice by 2. One-fourth divided by 2. Well, in order to do this mathematically, we have to look at it as 2 is equal to 2 over 1. It's the same as we talked about earlier. 2 equals 2 over 1. So the equation we now have is 1/4 divided by 2 over 1. The process of this is to take the reciprocal of 2 over 1. Does anybody know what reciprocal means? Well, the definition for reciprocal, if you were going to look it up in the dictionary, is an adjective that means given or done in return. We're going to stop for a moment, and for the next 2 minutes, we are going to turn to your partner and think, pair, and share about the word reciprocal, how that could relate to math. How can it relate to the fraction 2 over 1? Let's give you an example here. If we have 3 over 7, the fraction 3/7, the reciprocal means given or done in return. So we have the numerator is a 3 and the denominator is a 7. Well, we're going to move that denominator 7 up on top. And in return, we're going to move the numerator 3 down on bottom. That does not mean that the denominator is now on top and the numerator is now on bottom. That's not true. That's never true. The denominator is always on bottom. But instead of the numerator being 3 and the denominator being 7, we flip it up on side its head so that we have the 7 up on top, which is now the numerator, and the 3 on bottom, which is now the denominator. 7/3 is the reciprocal of 3/7. So going back to our equation, we have 1/4 divided by 2 over 1. We're going to change that division into a multiplication sign and then take the reciprocal of 2 over 1, which is now 1 over 2. So we turned it from 1/4 divided by 2 over 1 to 1/4 times 1 over 2. Now we can multiply through. So we have 1 times 1, that equals 1, and 4 times 2 equals 8. So 1 times 1 over 4 times 2 equals 1/8. So now if we look back at our pizza, we had 1/4 slices, but over here we have 1/8 of a slice. And we can look at that by saying we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts, 8 equal parts. One of these slices would equal 1/8. And I put dashed lines here to represent what an eighth of the pizza would look like if all of these other sections were divided by 2. But of course, each of us, other people, myself, Sabrina, and Robbie, are going to have 1/4 of a pizza. And my wife is just going to have 1/8 of a pizza. And then we'd have 1/8 of a slice left over, which of course I ate. Okay, so I wrote a song about today's lesson plan, and the main point of it is in the chorus. Flip that fraction up on its head, don't divide, multiply instead. And this is how that goes. Flip that fraction up on its head, don't divide, multiply instead, multiply instead, multiply instead, don't divide, multiply instead. Okay, remember that. We're going to sing that together a little bit later. This is how it starts. I had an apple pie, it was very delicious. Okay, to be fair, I cannot say it was nutritious. I wanted to share with my friend Jan and Stu, so I cut it in thirds, but Jan said cut mine in 2. 1/3 divided by 2, 1/3 divided by 2. My brain broke down, what can I do? Divide 1/3 by 2, well 2 is 2 over 1. When dividing by fractions, what can be done? Yes, flip that fraction up on its head. Don't divide, multiply instead. Now you try, flip that fraction up on its head. Don't divide, multiply instead. Multiply instead, multiply instead. Don't divide, multiply instead. 1 times 1 over 3 times 2. Can you do the math? I can too. What'd you get? 1/6. Yes! The next day, I had a cherry pie. It was very delicious. Okay, to be fair, I cannot say it was nutritious. I wanted to share it with Tom, Larry, and Mary, so I cut it in 4s, but Tom said cut mine in 3. 1/4 divided by 3. 1/4 divided by 3. My brain broke down. It was very scary. Divide 1/4 by 3. Well, 3 is 3 over 1. When dividing fractions, what can be done? Flip that fraction up on its head. Don't divide, multiply instead. Multiply instead. Multiply instead. No, don't divide, you multiply instead. 1 times 1 over 4 times 3. Can you do the math? Well, so can me. So can me. That's not grammatically correct at all. But what's the answer? 1/12. Yes! And then the next day, I had a blueberry pie. It was very delicious. Okay, to be fair, I cannot say it was nutritious. I wanted to share it with Sue, Brian, and Lil, and Lisa, and Lex, and Sal, and Sarah, and Jackie, and Clive. That's a lot of people. So I cut it in 10s, but Clive said cut mine in 5. 1/10 divided by 5. 1/10 divided by 5. My brain broke down. Was I still alive? Divide 1/10 by 5. 5 is 5 over 1. When divided by fractions, I know what can be done. Flip that fraction up on its head. Don't divide, multiply instead. We multiply instead. We multiply instead. Don't divide, multiply instead. 1 times 1 over 10 times 5. Can you do the math? Okay, stop right there. If you expect me to divide a blueberry pie into 1/50th of a slice, you are ridiculous. But I flipped that fraction up on its head. I didn't divide, I multiplied instead. Multiply instead. Multiply instead. Don't divide, multiply instead. Now go home and do your homework. Thank you all. This has been a reenactment.